Macca? October, Premier League returns, North London derby, 1 point separates the two North London clubs.
Yeah, it's when the big test comes, isn't it? I think fixtures have been really kind to them since we started the Premier League. Obviously, Manchester United, as Scott mentioned there, they did play well at times, but you know, for where I think we got a little bit carried away with Arsenal, didn't we? And everyone was talking about them being, you know, genuine title contenders. I agree with Scott. I don't think they're at that level. I think they've closed the gap, and I think they're moving in the right direction. But then again, I was thinking about it before, and I was going to ask you when we were watching the game, because we were talking about it. What is the next step then for Arsenal? So say they finish fourth. Right, how do they bridge that gap from fourth to first?
I think that everyone's a million miles off first at the moment. Go on, Jamie.
I was just going to say, I mean, you've put in a great point there. They're a million miles off Arsenal, off Man City, potentially. What Man City is showing, but in order to win the league, there's an assumption that you need to beat the top four. I mean, Arsenal theoretically could still get 90 points and lose to 4 teams home and away, which theoretically could be enough to win the league. Unfortunately, Man City is part of that theory as well. So as long as they won every game like they're doing against the weak teams, rather than dropping points, drawing...
But they're not going to do that, are they? They're not going to win every game.
But at the moment, I'm not suggesting Man United are going to be in the top 4, but you can have 4 teams that you're going to lose to, theoretically. They're beating the weak teams. No, they're not stumbling against the weak teams, and Manchester United on that day were fantastic and showing their capabilities, adding to frustration of many Man United fans why they weren't doing this for the last 3 or 4 years, whatever. So if Arteta can try and guarantee that he will win these games against Brentford, against Crystal Palaces and the lower sides, if you like, then they're going to be up there in the top 4. If City somehow miraculously end up losing games which we don't expect them to, then there's a chance of potentially winning. I don't see it, but...
What takes them to the next step?
Well, I just want to counter what Jamie was saying there, because last year, they got a terrible start. They lost to Brentford. We all know that, 3 games on the spin. But they had some really good patches. They finished last season on 69 points. In most seasons, that will get you 4th place. They still fell short.
I'm talking about 90 points. You need 90 points to win the league.
You need 90 points to win the league.
Theoretically, and this is theory, but if the whole debate is always about the top 6 or top 4, you've got to beat them to prove yourself worthy. Well, theoretically, you don't. You can still lose 4 games.
For last year,
beat everyone else.
For last year, they effectively did beat, in most matches, the other teams. It's against the so-called Big 6 where they fell short, which meant they finished 4th. Last year.
The first defeat was against Brentford.
It was, but that's why I said the first 3 matches...
The math says that they can beat all the lower teams and still lose to Man City, Liverpool, and they can still finish in Champions League comfortably and potentially at 90 points, because you need 90 points to win the league. Realistically, it's not going to happen, because what I'm seeing so far, Man City are going to probably get 96, 97 points, whatever. No, but Arteta has got a team who go to Brentford, like Scotty said. Brentford were made to look poor, more than maybe they were just poor. But Arteta's putting the team out, they're making Brentford look poor.
What I'm saying is, I was trying to ask Scott, the question was, I look at the Arsenal team and I think it's a decent team. On paper, it looks OK, and yeah, it could challenge for 4th position. But I don't look at Arsenal and go, that's a top team. And I don't know what's going to bridge that gap from 4th to 1st.
No, I mean...
What is it, getting the Champions League and attract better players?
And then get better players, and it's an organic thing, isn't it? It's year on year, improving all the time. I mean, you're absolutely spot on, in theory, JMO, that you don't have to win those games. In theory, I could meet Cindy Crawford and she could fall in love with me. And it's in theory, it's not practice. That's my point. The practical side of it, it's not going to happen. And to say that you're putting then pressure on Arsenal winning on every single game outside of the top 4, that's not going to happen. And also, if you're going to lose to the top 4, you're not only not getting any points in that particular game, you're giving your rivals an extra 3 points there. Yeah. So in theory, you're right. But what they just need to do is exactly what they're doing at the moment. Everyone says about the end of last season that it was a disaster and it was a nightmare, and it was how it ended in the last 3 matches. I was at that Spurs-Arsenal game, and I thought it was a big one. I thought if Spurs win this, Arsenal are going to drop points. I didn't think they'd lose, but they'd drop points against Newcastle, and they just collapsed in those 2 games and Spurs took over. But it's still massive progression to finish 5th. If you'd have said that at the start of the season, that would be really good. Again, next season, 4th. Or this season, 4th. And then you attract even better players coming in. You know, Gabriel Jesus could have another Jesus or someone just as good. who could replace him and not rely on him. Because at the moment, if he gets injured, Eddie Nketiah's, for me, I think he's come on a lot, but he's nowhere near Jesus.
She's saying the strength in depth.
Strength in depth, and then you get these Champions League players where it suddenly becomes two quality players. You talk about the squad of City.
And Liverpool.
And Liverpool. You know, and then they're starting to build that, and they're on their way. But City are so good, so good.
Sorry, I love this type of debate because City have dropped points to teams that aren't going to win the league or even challenge the league.
And that happens.
Yeah, but Arsenal...
But they will go on a winning run.
I mean, Man United, if they... Under Ten Hag, Man United should be challenging for top 4. OK? Theoretically, they should be challenging for top 4. So if you lose to Man United, lose to Man City, lose to Liverpool, if you want to chuck Chelsea in there, whatever your top 4 is, win all the other games, Arsenal aren't tripping up against the lower teams at the moment.
At the moment, but they will do, Jamie.
Well, Liverpool have, and Man City already have, which suggests
and
that
Arsenal
they probably will again. So Arsenal might lose to Man City, but still pick up the points and Man City are dropping. I'm just trying to make this interesting because I don't think they're the best team, but over the course of the season, they can rack up enough points to be amongst the best teams.
They're fighting for 4th.
After 7 matches, you can't deny they are the best team because they're top of the table. That's how it currently stands.
And Man City have dropped points against teams who aren't even going to be there.
The league's not won.
I'd still argue, not many people argue Arsenal better than City, but I understand the point you're making. It's been a great start. And I actually think they did play well against Manchester United, but were naive in specific situations which United took advantage of. And that's where you're looking for Arsenal to learn, and I think they have learnt already. The rest of the games, they've, you know, even Fulham, they've come back from behind and won the game at the very end. They are progressing, but let's just do it bit by bit.
Yeah.
There's a knowledge to winning the league as well.
Absolutely. Just get top 4. That's the next step. Then the next step after that is build the squad again and see how much closer you can get to City, because everyone else is trying to do the same.
And let's not forget, there's the unknown factor of having a Premier League halfway through the season, and in the case of Arsenal, there will be a lot of players who are involved in the World Cup itself and travelling, and there's travels in Europe as
Brighton are going to win it then,
Brighton could very well win
Liverpool and City, they lose all their players as well, so Brighton are going to steamroll everyone
Graham
and win the
Potter
league.
would be steaming if they
Could
did
you imagine that?
Yeah, they've won it. Hey, if Leicester did it, why not? You never know, right?